All righty, I think we're going to go ahead and get started today. I would like to welcome everybody to the Vasculitis Foundation webinar today on managing pain and stiffness, despite on managing tips for managing pain and stiffness and keep on moving. And this webinar is something that we all need. The webinar is with Dr. Ann O'Brien. And after we finish this webinar today, as I said, there will be a recorded version of it. I am Kathy Olewski. I am a patient living with MPA vasculitis and also the host for the Vasculitis Foundation webinars. And let's see, the before we get started, there are just a few details that we need to go over. This is a live webinar, and we've muted everyone except for our guest speaker. And in today's webinar, Dr. O'Brien will do a presentation. After her presentation, you all will have the opportunity to ask her questions. And these questions can be asked by typing your questions into the Q&A box. If you don't see it, click the three dots they're usually on the bottom right of your screen where it says More. And make sure your question is a general question about movement and vasculitis for Dr. O'Brien, as she cannot comment on your specific medical situation. Also, if you need closed captioning, you should look for the box in the bottom left corner that says Captions, or it might be under the word More with the three dots. There's also a chat box. The chat box is for you to talk to the Vasculitis Foundation staff in the background or with other people that are in the webinar, but it's not for the questions. So remember, if you have a question, look for that Q&A box. And at the end of the presentation, I'll review the questions and ask Dr. O'Brien the questions on your behalf. So let's get started by introducing our guest speaker for today. Dr. Ann O'Brien is a physiotherapist, has been a physiotherapist for over 30 years, and has enjoyed varying clinical rheumatology posts in the UK, including a clinical specialist role. She has previously chaired the UK Rheumatology Physiotherapy Special Interest Group and has been on the British Health Professionals in Rheumatology National Committee. Ann has published 4 chapters in rheumatology textbooks and is recognized as a National Rheumatology Physiotherapist Opinion Leader. And she is also a senior lecturer at Keele University, Staffordshire, UK, and was the head of the School Allied Professions until September 2024. Ann's doctoral research, oops, sorry, I just lost something there. Ann's doctoral research explored the role of physiotherapies in the management of polymyalgia rheumatica. Subsequently, she has been principal investigator and co-producing with patients and health professionals in an exercise education resource for people with PMR. She currently leads an international educational community of practice for health professionals working with people living with PMR. And underpinning all of her professional activities, she is a very patient husband and 2 amazing teenage daughters. So welcome, Dr. O'Brien. We're so happy to have you here with us. And let me just make sure I'm not sharing my screen anymore.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for a very warm welcome. And it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you for the privilege of inviting me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. No, thank you so much. Well, thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for everyone for their patience. And welcome. Good afternoon to everybody. In the UK, it's later afternoon, so we're on slightly different time zones as we knew we would be. But it is lovely to be with you. So without further ado, just to give you an overview of what I'm thinking about covering today, bit of background about why I'm interested, particularly in polymyalgia rheumatica, which I will talk about as PMR. And just very briefly, because I undertook a PhD doctoral study in physiotherapy and PMR, that really was where it came from. I'll tell you a little bit about this. What we've gone on as a team in the UK to co-produce a resource for people who have got PMR. And really, we want to focus on how we can reproduce a better quality of life. We want to reduce our symptoms and get moving. So if by any chance you have nearby a small bottle of water, or an apple, something that we could just use as a little mini weight, that would be brilliant. But we're really going to focus on some top tips about how to keep active even though we might be experiencing pain, and appreciate the time might be a little bit tight, but we will do our best to answer as many Q&A question and answers as we can as the afternoon progresses. So thank you to Kathy for that introduction. I have a clinical background, but I've been a lecturer at Keele University, which is in the middle of the UK in Staffordshire, since 2011, and I completed my PhD exploring what is the role of physical therapy in the management of polymyalgia rheumatica. That was just 18 months ago. And from that, this leaflet that you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, we co-produced with people who were living with PMR, and with some colleagues and academics and clinicians from both Keele University and Leeds University, a little bit further north in the UK. So that's where I come from, and you may or may not be aware that there are international guidelines that clearly state that exercise is important and exercise should be considered for people with PMR, particularly to improve muscle strength and to help people reduce the risk of falling. And for those who are taking steroids or glucocorticoids, hence the GCs in this slide refers to glucocorticoids, then that is what we're trying to ensure, that we don't have any consequences of falling, which, as I'm sure many of you are aware, may lead to fractures and broken bones. So hence, this is how we co-produce. These are my co-authors who also worked on co-producing this educational resource, and we will be sharing the link with you. I think Jennifer has very kindly already put that onto the Vasculitis Foundation website, so hopefully you'll be able to access that, but if not, we will share the links again later on. But these were the sort of key messages that came from the people we were working with, and that included the top tips really that people felt were really important to get across if you are living with polymyalgia rheumatica. And that essentially was about keep moving, keep going, tune in to your body. So think about what your body's telling you and try and read what your body is telling you. Very much the importance of balancing, yes, movement, but also having appropriate levels of rest inbuilt to that levels of activity. Thinking about the benefits of mood and how actually by activity, we know that it improves how we feel about ourselves and how our mood can improve. And really to sort of think about the longer term picture, which, as I'm sure many of you who are living with a form of inflammatory musculoskeletal condition will know, it waxes, it wanes, it changes, it's not predictable. So those were the things that we were told by our patients who were part of this research project, but also very much people's experience of working with people who are living with PMR. So essentially improving flexibility is so important, general fitness, general mobility, and people wanted to know, well, what's the best way to just reduce my symptoms? Which is why, thank you to those who've already completed the pre-survey, but I'm really interested in finding out, almost before we get into the nitty-gritty of this, well, what do you feel already? What are your beliefs about movement? How much do you know about how you can relieve your pain, your stiffness and other symptoms? And that will give us a sort of baseline. And then at the end, if you are kind enough to complete it, a very quick, again, it's similar, it's 2 minutes, hopefully, that would be so helpful. So this first top tip is probably stating the blooming obvious, but it's so important to start gradually. I'm sure you can probably relate to the number of times when you have a great idea and you think, right, I'm just going to get going now and really sort of beetle on. And you can end up actually overdoing it very quickly. So starting slowly and gradually building up sounds obvious, but isn't always obvious and isn't always easy to do. But a simple thing will be to stop being too sedentary. And many of us in our daily lives, be it in a workplace or be it at home, we do a huge amount of sitting, and even making yourself have an alert on your phone or some sort of mechanism where you think, right, every hour I'm at least going to stand up and stretch. So if you're in the situation right now of having been sat for a while, maybe just take a few minutes right now to stand up while we're having this discussion. Have a little bit of a stretch, make your knees straighten out completely, pull your tummy in, stand tall, and use this as a little moment to be stretching for this hour. There'll be more of that in a minute, but just that's our starting point. But when we're doing stretching, it's important to just not just hold a stretch just for a couple of seconds. It isn't fantastically evidence-based, but lots and lots of patients over the years have told me actually holding between 10, 20 seconds seems to be an optimal time. And it's no good just doing one stretch. You need to do a couple. So holding for 20 to 30 seconds seemed to be sort of the consensus that we got from our both our clinical colleagues and our people who were living with PMR. Start gently, just start with a few minutes, and it's amazing how it can make a difference. The other thing that is another top tip is build any form of activity that you're going to build into your daily life. Don't make it right every midday, I'm going to do 20 minutes of something. It's far better if you can to build in the odd minute for, in the morning, I'll just do 2 minutes here. And then when I perhaps, maybe we all have to go to the bathroom at some point, then when I'm going to the bathroom, I'm just going to have 2 minutes then. And then when I'm having my lunch or after I've had my lunch, I'll just have another 2 minutes then. So you build into your working day and your living day a little bit of activity that way rather than trying to be, none of us can feel that we can find big chunks of time. So I often say to people, okay, when you're washing your hands, we do that umpteen times in a day. So when you're doing that, think of standing tall, think of actually having a good posture, maybe even standing on one leg when you're doing that, providing you've got reasonable balance and you're not going to topple over. But you've usually got something you can hold on to with one hand, stand on the other leg. Again, keeping a tall posture, pulling your tummy in, standing nice and straight, making that leg that you're standing on nice and solid, because it's amazing. You're strengthening without realizing it, and you're also improving your balance. So simple things. Maybe you just do a really good stretch of your arms when you've finished cleaning your teeth, and maybe you just do a really good stretch a couple of times after you've washed your hands. Whatever it is, but build it into your everyday. So I guess one of the tuning in business is about sort of thinking about building in not just the moving bit, but also the resting bit. And I think one of the things to just note is it is normal to feel a bit achy after doing some activity, especially if you don't actually usually do a lot of activity. That is very, very normal. So as such, it's quite important to just think, okay, what is this? Am I feeling just a bit achy just for a few minutes, maybe half an hour afterwards, and then it goes away? In which case, no problem. Don't let it put you off doing a little bit different activity with your body, because that's normal. I think the other thing to think about, though, is if you feel you've overdone it, and if 3 hours later you're still going, oh gosh, I think I've overdone it, and I can really feel my shoulders or wherever, then that's the time to think, okay, I perhaps need to cut back a little bit. So there's different schools of thought about this, but just in your head, it might be easier to think, okay, I did 6 of those stretches. I'm just going to do 3 next time. So cut it back by sort of 50%. However, don't then think I'll just stay at that. You need to then give it a few days at that lower level and then build it up again. And again, there's no paper that I can refer you to, but if in your head you're thinking I've cut back by 50%, and if you add on an extra 10% every day, just gently testing it out, quite likely that you're actually going to be within a week back to where you were before, but a lot more comfortable. So we then talk about this business of balancing rest and activity, and it's not an easy thing to do, and we've all overdone it. You get a nice spell of weather and you think, right, I'm going to go on an extra long walk, or I'm going to get in the garden, or whatever I'm going to do. But actually then you think, oh, I think I overdid it. So it's really important to try to get the balance right. But I think it's very normal to realize that that is not an easy thing to do. So for some people, they find it really helpful to have a diary and to keep track of their activity for a few days before they actually start changing anything. And that might help you to identify, gosh, actually, I'm really busy first thing in the morning, or I tend to be really busy at the end of the afternoon. And then I'm no wonder I'm exhausted for the evening. Whatever it may be, everybody's patterns are slightly different, but it might well be worth your while if you're wanting to change the amount of activity and movement that you're doing, to just stop before you do so and just look at your daily patterns. And a diary is just one way to do that. Some people use a phone, whatever it is that works for you. But just working that out, remembering that the simple things, dog walking, if we've got lots of dogs in the UK, as I'm sure you know, but whatever it is that you're doing that is part of your everyday routine needs to go in. Don't make it really laborsome, but just don't forget things, just to help you identify better. So get it right, get the balance right, be kind to yourself, and you won't get it necessarily right the first time, but be patient and it will come. So this might be the opportunity now for us, if you haven't already done so, completely up to you. But if you are feeling up to it, and providing you don't feel dizzy, that's another thing. If you do get dizziness, especially dizziness when you move your head, then I would recommend that you stay sat down. However, we're going to give this a little bit of a go, a little bit of a sort of test, and I hope this is okay. No lycra required, no leotards, no bits of extra kit. The only thing you might want to have is maybe a bottle of water or something that you can use as a bit of a weight in a minute. But these were the exercises that came out of our research with working with our people who were living with PMR, and we undertook quite a few focus groups to really get these. But thinking about some simple stretches just to begin to get moving, maybe a little bit more. So I'm offering these to you. Clearly, these are generic. And if you have been told by a medical practitioner, a physical therapist, whoever, don't do any of these, then obviously please don't. But just simply to start off with, these neck rotations, again, linked with our posture. Many of us don't have great posture. So thinking about just simply turning your head as far as you comfortably can, only to the point where you feel, oh, I can feel a bit of a stretch here, and just hold it there. So don't do anything dramatic. You don't want to do any bouncy moves, nothing like that. Just hold the stretch. And then what you can do is you can add on pull your shoulder down at the same time. And if you do that, you often feel a stretch here, and that's absolutely normal. Just come back to the middle again, and you probably feel the stretch just ease right off again. So if you're feeling brave, do this with me. I can't see you, so clearly others might be able to if you're on camera, but if you're feeling brave, give it a go. Let's just have another go again. So we'll just do another one to the right, remembering we're keeping our eyes on the level. Just take your head as far as you feel you comfortably can, providing you don't get dizzy, and then gently pull the other shoulder, the opposite shoulder, just down towards the floor, and you probably will feel a nice little stretch, and then come back to the middle. And then what you can do is go in the opposite direction, same again. And many of us find that we can go a little bit further one way than we can another. So in the interest of time, we're not going to do 5 of everything, but we just thought we'd sort of walk you through these. So another one simply to do is when we're sat down, but if you are stood up, you can do this one absolutely as well, is stretching your hip. And again, because so many of us do find that we get chair shaped almost over time, this is a nice one to do, and it really helps stretch not just your hip but your back as well. So if you're sat still, you can see that bottom image on the bottom left hand of your screen, and very gently, providing again you haven't been told you mustn't take your hip beyond 90 degrees of a bend, which for some people, if they've had hip surgery, they might be told that. However, if you have not been told that, then you're probably okay to do this. And just bring your knee up towards your tummy or towards your head. You can do this in standing as well. And if you do this in standing, what you need to try and do is remember to pull your tummy in. Again, keeping nice and tall as you're standing. And it's amazing. You'll make your back muscles work. You'll make your leg muscles work, your hip muscles work. It's actually quite a good exercise in itself to get your core working quite hard as well. So go as far as you comfortably can. That is the message for all of these stretches. Once you feel you've held for a few seconds, 10 to 20, take it down again, back to its resting position, and then repeat again. Obviously, we would go for the other leg as well. And again, if we had a bit more time, we could do this and just see how we feel. Very simple exercises, and I would suggest probably many of us could do these almost at any time in the day. Just build it in, as I say, you know, don't make a big thing of it and, oh no, I've got to do some exercises. Just put an alarm on your phone every hour. Right, I'm just going to do a few of these now. Another one, in terms of our posture, many of us find that when we're stressed, shoulders go up towards our ears. So another one you want to probably do is gently pull up and then push them down. So you're wanting to get, again, these neck muscles here just stretched out nice and gently. So going up and then going down. And for people who have polymyalgia rheumatica, they often find they get very achy shoulders. And so this is actually quite a good one to do. And then the opposite of that movement, instead of going up and down, is about pulling your shoulder blades together. So you basically stretching your chest and pulling your shoulders backwards. Sometimes you get a bit of a clunk in your back, which is what's just happened to me. So pull your shoulders back so that you feel a stretch at the front here. Hold it there. Hold it for those 10 to 20 seconds and then just let go. And then same again, pulling back. Now, if you're standing, you can also pull your tummy in at the same time, keeping nice and straight. And you're doing several things in one go. It's not taking much time, hopefully not too much effort, but actually you're loosening up your shoulders. Now, for some people, again, this one is particularly difficult. And if you have got a flare up, I'm thinking particularly in PMR, some of you may have experienced this, that actually things seem to be going a bit backwards. Hopefully the overall trend is really good, but sometimes there are good and bad days. Good exercise to do though is hands together, and then you're just reaching your arms right above your head. Go as far as you feel you comfortably can. It might be that you can go that far, and that's fine. It might be you feel you can go a bit further, or it might be you feel you can go right up above your ears. The idea behind having two is that one arm can help the other one go a bit further. So you're trying to get a stretch. You're trying to get a stretch at the front of your arm here. And from there, what you can do is you can just put your hand on your head and you can slide the back of your hand behind your head to get to that position of arms out here, elbows out. And again, you'll probably find there's a really good stretch here at the front of your shoulders. And in everyday life, we do tend to be, many of us, quite round-shouldered. And so to open up our posture, this is a great exercise to do. So what you can then do is go from there, slide your hands down. So come back to your shoulders, go to the sides, and then reach up your back. So excuse my back, but you can see what you can do. So going from here, coming round the side, and then reaching up your back as far as you feel, again, you comfortably can. And you're just trying to hold that stretch. Hopefully this all sort of makes some sense. So those are some sort of almost, we class them as beginners. I mean, it doesn't matter, but it can be a really just simple, helpful exercise. All of those depends, you can choose. It might be that you have a shoulder day and then you do your hips another day, whatever works for you, little and often and starting gently. I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but actually there's a huge amount of evidence to show if we become a bit more active, it really does help our mood. And it helps us achieve everyday things that possibly were just a little bit more of a taxing or a little bit more of an effort. So one of the things that is a sort of very obvious top tip, but maybe worth just thinking about, is do something that you really love. Don't sort of set off and start a different activity that you've never really enjoyed in the first place. I'm not a big, personally, I don't like swimming. It's not my thing. I love other forms of sport, but swimming is not my thing. So for me, that wouldn't work. Other friends absolutely love swimming. That would be the great thing for them. So do something you enjoy. It's really helpful to often get a bit of support from somebody who knows you well, can encourage you and say, come on, let's go together. And then it's much easier to not say, oh, I don't feel like it today. So things like walking the dog, don't underestimate that is activity. Doing the housework, going shopping. Instead of parking as near to the shop entrance as you can, deliberately maybe park a little bit further away. And that in itself gives you that little bit of extra activity, that extra little bit of I guess it's a little bit of strengthening, it's a bit better balance, all those things that actually enhance your levels for that day. But remember to pace yourself. So don't go mad, don't overdo it, especially if you're changing things, just gradually, nice and gently add to it. So these next sort of images will show you a little bit more. I'm reluctant to say advanced because it's not really, but it's what we're working on a little bit more is perhaps strength, a little bit about getting us a bit fitter. So raising our heart rate a little bit. We know that if we are fit and healthy, we know particularly with different forms of vasculitis that sometimes we're more at risk from other cardiac issues. So, that's important to keep as fit as possible. And we're all far too sedentary, aren't we? Most of us. So anything we can do to improve our fitness in a safe way is good. So this is where if you manage to get a bottle of water, I've got a San Pellegrino here, but other makes exist, obviously. Actually just get some water, and you can, because it's got some weight in it, there's nothing special about the water, it's just purely using it as a weight. So you can sit, you can stand, whatever works best for you. Some people like using weights as such in their hand, but I use a bottle of water only because many of us have that at home, and it is fairly easy. We don't have to go out and, purchase something. You've normally got something at home. Might be a vacuum cleaner handle, or it might be a rolling pin or something. Use whatever works for you. And it's just a very simple exercise of you're starting with your arm down, as you can tell, with your elbow straight. And all you're going to do is go from a straightened position to just gently bend up. The key thing to do, again, is think about your posture. Whether you're sat or whether you are stood. Tummy in, think about good posture, shoulders back, so that you've got a really good starting position. And then you can go gently bending up and slowly going down as well. People forget that is just as valuable as bending up is the going down again. So simple but effective. Then you can go out to the side. So in terms of going out, the image shows that there could be like an elastic band, it could be a skipping rope, it could be, but go back to your water, very simple, starting with your arm by your side, and you're just trying to raise your arm to come out to the side. Try not to bend your arm, but if you need to, that's fine. Holding it there, and then slowly, slowly coming down again. And slowly coming down, you're doing just as much strengthening as you are on the way up. So remembering posture, tummy in, nice and straight. Keep breathing normally. Don't be tempted to go, hold your breath. No, keep breathing normally. And then go up and holding, and then slowly down. But we can also do some great things for our hips. And we did before a bend of the hips, but actually another really good exercise, and this helps us with our balance as well, is just standing up straight and taking your leg behind you. So you can either hold on to a chair, kitchen work surface, sink, doesn't matter, whatever you choose. But just gently rest your hands. And what you're doing is taking your leg, even if just a few centimeters, you're raising it from the floor and you're just taking your leg behind. What you're trying to do here is, yes, to strengthen your bottom muscles, really important, but you're also strengthening your tummy muscles and your back muscles at the same time. And if you're feeling that you could even let go of your hands and see what your balance is like. Because what can be quite good is to actually improve your balance while you're doing this exercise, which actually improves the strength in your legs too. So it's a multi-purpose exercise. I'm a big fan of try and do as much as you can within the same time. So again, do a few repetitions, hold for 10 seconds, see if you can build up. You might start with just doing 5, swap legs, do another 5. If you're feeling that wasn't too bad, okay, do another set of 5 and see if you can do that and build up. Again, one of the tricks is don't take loads of time. You don't want to be doing 50 of these, I expect, but actually maybe just hold the position for a bit longer, which actually maybe uses your time as well a little bit better, but you're still achieving the work and keeping the strength. So moving on to the right-hand side of our screens, very simple, but how important is it and how much do we take for granted? Being able to stand up and down from, for example, the toilet. None of us want to have help with that. So really strengthening our legs is such a helpful thing to do. It also can get you quite out of puff if you do several of them. So again, thinking about your posture, trying perhaps not to use your arms too much, but you might start by just gently pushing off the chair, but you're just wanting to lean forwards, get your bottom to the edge of the chair, and then you make your legs do all the work, really, leaning forwards and then push up to straighten right up and stand up tall. And then in reverse. So again, pull your tummy in, think about your posture, holding your core nice and tight. And then what you want to do is you want to just gently, slowly sit down again, back into the chair. Now, even doing 5 of those is brilliant, because for many of us who sit too much, I include myself, these leg muscles just aren't strong enough. They're not doing what they really are designed to do. They're really strong muscles normally, so we should be using them. If you can do 10 of those every time, for example, every time you go to the toilet, after you're ready, you're comfortable, just stand up and down 3, 4, 5 times slowly. You'll be amazed before you know it. You've done that a few times in your working day, in your typical day. And those are all extra exercises for minimal extra time. And then moving further down the page to advanced, just for the sake of argument, but step ups. So I'm talking about a normal set of stairs, anything that you've got that is easy. It might be the front step, it could be anywhere, back step, or whatever you've got. If you need to hold on to a rail, a wall, go for it. But you're wanting to just step up and step down. Nice and gently, don't go mad. We're not going for a world record. We're not going for speed. We're going for just control. And quite quickly, for many of us, we start to feel a little bit puffed. So a little bit short of breath, that's fine. You're allowed to feel that. Obviously, if you're feeling anything more than being a bit short of breath, or if you get any pain or any chest pain and so on, then that's different, and you might need to go and talk to somebody to get some advice. However, it's very normal to feel a bit puffed. So just start gently, maybe just do 10, 15, do as many as you can, do 30 seconds worth, and then just gradually build up. But you'll be amazed how quickly you can start to feel quite a bit fitter. And the final one on this image is about squats. So squats against the wall. So most of us can find a wall, and what you're wanting to do, providing you'll know whether you feel confident to do this or not. but some people call this exercise like a ski sit. It's a great training exercise for skiers, but just gently starting up straight and then sliding yourself down with your back supported against the wall, and you're just wanting to feel that bend and hold it at the position where you start to think, yeah, I'm beginning to feel my front thigh muscles and they're working quite hard. They might even start to wobble and quiver a little bit. That's okay. Obviously, we don't want pain, but it's okay if they're feeling a little bit achy because you're making them work quite hard. So just very simple, straightforward. See if you can hold for 10 seconds, 20, 30, build it up gradually. And if you could do that every day and just do that a couple of times, it's amazing how quickly we can feel quite a bit fitter and quite a bit stronger, and our balance can be impacted as well. It can all help, which is for as we get older, no matter whether we have any underlying conditions or not, being fitter, being stronger, having better balance is all good news. So a couple of just basic things again, just to remind ourselves, it's about listening to what your body's telling you. If you have got pain, and you'll know what feels like pain as opposed to a bit achy, obviously it's important to listen to that. And remember, you can just cut back a little bit and then gradually build it up. So don't give up and don't feel, oh, it's obviously not meant to be, because actually it's just your body's way of saying, okay, this is new. And perhaps you're using your muscles in a slightly different way, but actually doesn't mean that, stop doing it. So keep going. And I quite like this quote because I thought it's quite important. We need to learn to tune into our bodies, and we're probably not very good at that a lot of the time. So the leaflet that you're more than welcome to download, it's all free, and either download it, you can print it out. There's a printable version as well. But we've had, I'm pleased to say, some really positive feedback about it. For people with PMR have said this seems to be really relevant. It's easy to understand. And importantly, for us anyway, from a research point of view, is that it seems to be making a difference to how people are sort of changing their activity levels anyway. So I'd be really interested to know your perspective and whether you think that is helpful. So there will be this is how to get the link, but actually I think in the presentation, and I know Jennifer's going to make these resources available to you, so please do that. One of the things we would ask, though, if you do download that booklet, it would be so helpful to us if you would give us feedback about what you think about it. We genuinely are changing our practice, and we are building on this for future research. So the QR code is there, and we would genuinely love it if you would be kind enough to just give us a couple of minutes and give us your feedback. So some just summary words, really. Obviously, keeping moving. How important is that? We know that there are huge benefits. We know we can reduce our day-to-day symptoms of feeling stiff, feeling sometimes painful. We can definitely improve our strength. That impacts what we can do in daily life, our stamina, so our sort of overall fitness, but also our balance. And so think about what suits you best. Think about fitting it into your everyday life, if at all possible, pacing yourself. It hard to do, but makes a big difference. So in a minute, I think probably either Jennifer or Kathy will be very kind enough to post a little link in for you to just give me some thoughts, if you wouldn't mind, about what impact this webinar has had in terms of how you feel now about activity and movement when you're living with, whatever inflammatory condition you may have. Jennifer was very kind enough to help me find some more resources that are relevant, particularly in the States. And so these are all available as well, obviously, to you, and some links there. So I hope that has been helpful. But it's really an opportunity now for us to have a little chat and any immediate questions. So I'd really welcome any discussion that you have. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay, thank you so much, Anne. And I just want to check with you before we go any further. and ask your time frame. It is slightly past the hour that we planned on. Do you have a few more minutes, or would you prefer to come back and do a question and answer session separately?
Well, I probably have got 5 minutes now, but I'm so sorry because I do have,
No
unfortunately, a
problem.
really important meeting that I've got to go to next. So I apologies about that. But
So
if that's helpful or whatever if you feel it's better to keep it all another day, that's fine.
I think what we will do is we will set up a time with you after today that we will do a question and answer session separately. And we would ask everybody to please email your questions in. Jennifer will post the email address in the chat box now, but you can also just respond to any emails that you got from us today getting started. I apologize. We did have a time zone problem today, and we started at a time different than what was previously announced. However, I want to assure everybody this is being recorded. It was a great session. I am a vasculitis patient myself. I loved everything. I loved the idea of a diary because I haven't done a good job of identifying why I can't exercise right now during this flare. And this will help me with that. So I appreciate that and all of the very calm, mild stretches and exercises that will get me going. So I personally appreciate this so much, and I think so do all the viewers. I was watching the chat box. There were a lot of comments about how wonderful it was, and they've downloaded the book. Several people have already. So I'm sure it's going to be well received. And I did want to say that we also want to thank you, Dr. O'Brien, for taking your time with us and doing this with us today. But I have just a couple more things to share with everybody before we finish up today, including that one other QR code that you mentioned. But let me just start by sharing this, first of all, because I want to talk just a minute about the VPPRN. I am a VPPRN patient champion, so this is particularly important to me as well. But for those of you that are watching, did you ever wonder how you could have an impact that's on important vasculitis research? Well, the answer is you should join the Vasculitis Patient Powered Research Network. And they have forms that they ask you to complete biannually. I swear it takes 10 minutes twice a year to do this. So please visit vpprn.org and have a look at what you can do to help with vasculitis patient research. It's a global patient registry, and patient data drives research in vasculitis, and providing researchers with information about you and your experience is key for advancing the knowledge of vasculitis. And I just want to say again that we would like to thank Dr. Ann O'Brien for sharing all the information that she shared with us today, but doing it in such a way that made me feel good. So I'm sure it made all of you feel good. And so we greatly, greatly appreciate that. So thank you, Anne. We appreciate your time. And finally, we do have this one slide that has the QR code for after you watch the entire presentation. If you could scan this code and take the post presentation survey. It's also going to be popped into the chat box here in just a minute. And we will include it in the email when we send you the link for the webinar that was recorded today. So for those of you that joined us just a few minutes ago, again, we apologize for the time zone issue, but there is a recorded version of this that will be sent to you shortly. So I just want to say thank you so much again, Anne, and we appreciate your time. And any final words before we say goodbye to everybody?
Just to say thank you so much for the privilege of being with you this afternoon, and it's been a real pleasure, and I will very happily come back another time if you would like me to. So thank you so much for your time, and have a good afternoon, everybody.
Yes, we will have you back for questions and answers. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.